Hi. So if you guys don't know me from my Haiti presentation, my name is Devin Hoover, and I'm doing a presentation on the end of the Roman Republic. And I find this quite fascinating because it kind of reminds me of America, because they had similar democracies, and the crises were sort of the same. Okay, so just before I get into like the events, here's what the old republic's government style was like. It was formed in 509 BC after the overthrow of King Tarquin. And the Romans decided to never have a king, and even when there were emperors, there were limits on the
Was his
emperor's
last
power.
name really Superbus?
I think that was just like, you know how you get like an epithet at the end of your name. Probably
That is an
was.
amazing one then.
Yeah. I don't know what it means. It's Latin. So the Senate, the Roman Senate, was eventually created as like a group of advisors to the king, but now that there was no king, it basically became like Congress today. It could pass legislation. And it was made of the upper crust, rich patricians, which were like the 1%, and two consuls, sort of like presidents, were elected each year to kind of lead the republic. And the lower class plebeians were really upset that they really had no say in this government, so they did revolt early on, and the Senate eventually compromised with establishing the office of tribune, and the only plebeians could be elected to the tribunate. And the tribune had the power to veto laws passed by the Senate and also to advise the Senate. And in an emergency situation, i.e. war, the Senate could elect a temporary dictator for, I believe, 1 year term? Yes, 1 year. And since Rome was in war a lot, this usually happened all the time. And it was like a supreme dictator. You were unable to remove from power, and the dictator would have all control over the government and military. But the Senate would choose wisely, so this wasn't really like a problem. So the Punic Wars really sets the stage for the end of the Republic. Okay, so the Senate emerged with total foreign policy and military powers as a result of the war, and Rome basically conquered all of Carthage, which would eventually expand to like here, and I think, but I will stop here because Egypt's still Egypt, and it got a lot of cheap land for farming. So wealthy people bought up this land really quickly, so they made mass plantations and imported lots of slaves. Well, the poor farmers couldn't even compete, and now that the rich farmers were like churning out grain, that the price of grain would decrease, and so now like the poor farmers were even poorer this time. So the poor people started to migrate to the city, and they became city dwellers. Grain was massively imported from the territories, and yeah, like I said before, they gave up.
Quick question.
Yeah.
About Carthage. So what happened with Hannibal Barca, where he came around the Alps?
So Hannibal, he crossed the Alps, right?
With
And
elephants, somehow.
Yeah, with elephants. Only one survived. And he basically wrecked the Roman countryside, and that culminated in Cannae, or Battle of Cannae. I like to pronounce it Cannae, because A-E-N is like an I in Latin. He couldn't destroy Rome because Rome was too heavily fortified. But I think one mistake that Hannibal made at Cannae was he didn't advance on anything else. He kind of just sat there, which gave time for Scipio Africanus to like attack Carthage, and that prompted Hannibal to go back to Carthage. And so now the fight was brought from the Romans to the Carthaginians, and that ended in Zama. Question in the back.
Hannibal's argument was that he didn't have the troops to take Rome, and so he couldn't.
Yeah, he didn't have the troops to take Rome.
Do you think that's accurate, or do you think he was stalling?
Yes. Also coupled with the fact that probably Rome was too heavily fortified.
Wait, yes to stalling or yes to truth?
Yes to both.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a variety of factors. More questions.
Sorry.
Just presentation.
After the Punic Wars, is Rome at the height of its empire?
Rome's height of the empire comes at 100 AD with like Trajan's conquering of Dacia, but that kind of ended after he died because Hadrian made major defense policies.
Okay.
Okay, back to the first event. I call this the Gracchi brothers. Tiberius Gracchus was the elder of the brothers, and he was elected one of the consuls in that year. And he passed kind of like an executive order today, which limited the amount of land an individual could farm. This agrarian land reform was meant to have as many Romans as possible to own land in order for like the poor people to become middle class again. So the Senate being being those rich people who probably owned all those lands because they were the patricians, they obviously refused to raise these funds for the land reform. So, what happened? Yeah. So Tiberius Gracchus, he's very popular with the people now because the majority of the people are plebeians. He's re-elected consul, and this caused his enemies to murder him because this is pretty common.
Well, yeah,
in
who else
Rome.
would murder him?
Yeah. His younger brother Gaius Gracchus is elected 9 years later. And Gaius Gracchus sort of had the same attitude as Tiberius Gracchus. So, he
mob
passed a law to
violence,
allow the
lovely.
plebeians to buy grain at lower prices. And tensions rose in the Senate, and this prompted Gaius to flee Rome. And I think some people say he was suicided, some people said he lived the rest of his life in hiding, but he just left.
No one
And
truly knows
the-
except probably him.
This started kicking the can down the road because the plebeians revolted, and eventually this land reform was passed, but only through mob violence. And they discovered that, hey, mob violence was a key to get their policies back or passed. So in subsequent years, Rome will see more mob violence, and it'll just descend further into chaos. Then a guy named Gaius Marius is elected
Another one.
to
Another
consul.
Gaius.
He eventually gets elected 7 times a consul, which is like a really big precedent. And he's very important because he allowed the plebeians to join the military the first time. It was kind of like how Napoleon changed the military, saying that instead of basing it on patronage, basing it on merit. So tons of plebeians enlisted, and now that made Rome invincible. So Gaius Marius led the plebeian army to victory against invading German tribes. These are the tribes in particular.
Teutons and
Teutons and Cimbri.
Okay.
Yeah, he was elected 7 times. So, and then Rome engages in a war against Pontus, which is like the empire to the east, which is like central Turkey nowadays. And it was a king named Mithridates, hence we get the Mithridatic Wars. And this is how Rome takes control of Anatolia. And there's an upcoming general named Lucius Cornelius Sulla, yes, that Sulla, and Senate awards him commander in the First Mithridatic War. And it seems a lot like modern politics. Gaius Marius uses political connections and compromises and a bunch of behind-the-scenes deal workings to steal the job away, and now he has the job. So that really increased tensions between Marius and Sulla. So while Sulla was off campaigning in Asia Minor, Marius basically put all of Sulla's enemies to death in Rome. Obviously secretly, of course. So another thing that kind of brought out Marius and Sulla is the social war. When Rome conquered the Italian peninsula, it never gave the city-states rights, and this was becoming, or citizenship rights, and this is becoming a really big issue now. There was a consul named Marcus Livius Drusus that tried to pass a law that would give anyone citizenship, but failed. He was assassinated, which led many of the Italian city-states to wage war against Rome. Though Rome had the troops, and Rome eventually won, but then the tensions were kind of ceased when Lucius Julius Caesar, that's Julius Caesar's father, passes a law called the Lex Julia, which extends citizenship to only the city-states that didn't revolt. And as a result, Italy became more unified. Yeah. So this is a picture of Sulla. So guys, after
You're
7
missing your nose, man.
Yeah. Probably erosion
Sphinx
and
Part
stuff.
2.
Is Voldemort better?
True. Sulla's Voldemort, can confirm. Also, let's see. So after 7 long terms, Gaius Marius dies in 86 BC. And as a result, Rome has become a lot more populous. Kind of like Trump, if you ask me. Trump's pretty populous. And Cinno, which was one of Marius' supporters in the Senate, and he was nominated for consul, was killed by his own men while negotiating with Sulla, because these are the 2 main powers right now. So now with all of the Marian supporters gone, Sulla kind of just got fed up with Rome and how it's leading, and he openly rebelled in 84 BC. And he's joined by 2 people, which are minor at the time, but will be a lot more significant later on, Crassus and Pompey. And Sulla basically establishes the first dictatorship in about that.
Wait. Isn't it Pompeii, not Pompey?
Different spelling. Pompey's a place.
No,
Pompey
it's
is with an
Pompeii.
I.
I know, but
Yeah.
it's Pompeii.
Well, I say Pompey because that's in this podcast that I listen to.
If you say it as
You
Pompeii,
can say
it might confuse
Pompeii.
people.
I'm gonna say Pompey. Don't get
Yeah.
triggered by it. So at this point, when Sulla assumed the dictatorship, the republic was basically bankrupt. So, using like pre-Machiavellianism, which was basic, Sulla just issued a series of prescriptions that basically would execute quote enemies of the state, which are really just rich people. So he'd kill them and seize their property, and then use the funds to pay off the debts, which worked out great for the state, but definitely not for his reputation. Julius Caesar was one of his targets, but he fled Rome, and his relatives hid him, which was illegal. But I don't think Sulla ever found out about that.
Wait, legal or illegal? I couldn't.
It was illegal.
Ah.
Yeah, you couldn't help a prescribed person. That was illegal. So he strengthened the Senate and stripped the tribunes of their titles, so kind of handing power back to the patricians. And strangely, Sulla retired at the end of 81 BC to be with like family, and his epitaph was said to be "No greater friend, no worse enemy." So that kind of just did like a 180 there. So Sulla dies peacefully, and then the three people to emerge from this are Pompey, or AKA Pompey Magnus, which was basically a joke at first. Because he was an upcoming general, and he was like the greatest general of his time, but all of a sudden you say, oh, it's Pompey Magnus, it's Pompey the Great, but that actually became a legit name for him, Pompey the Great. And then Marcus Crassus, who is probably the richest man in Rome, and also kind of like Trump, he basically bought his way into politics, but he always wanted to run a successful military campaign. He was always jealous of Pompey. And in the middle of this rivalry is Julius Caesar, this young upstart general who's been through quite a lot. He was the priest of Jupiter. He was captured by pirates and subsequently murdered all those pirates. And yeah, pretty eventful if you ask me. They form a political alliance called the First Triumvirate. And yeah, I covered that. And the Senate divided Rome into divided Rome into three little districts, and each person was given one of those districts. Caesar was given the farthest districts from Rome. This is like southern France, Switzerland, North Italy, a little bit of like Yugoslavia, and Marcus Crassus leads invasion to Parthia, which is about where Iran is today. Iran, Iraq. And
Died.
he died. So it was all about Armenia. So Armenia was being influenced a lot by the Parthians, and for centuries Armenia was always loyal to Rome, and Rome saw it as an attack on its interests. So Crassus personally volunteered, but it turned out to be terrible because he asked local guides, and the local guides were basically spies of the Parthian king. It was just a disaster. They all died in the heat because it was basically a desert. And so Caesar is in the far reaches of Rome. Crassus is dead, which leaves Pompey in control of Rome. So he's elected as a sole consul in desperation because there was really no one else to nominate. That was actually like good. So Caesar did not want to stick to the sidelines at all. So he made like the bold move of invading Gaul. Now this was really like surprising to everyone because just a few centuries back, the Gauls had sacked Rome and nearly like brought it to its knees. And now they're facing this like ancient power, and he